Welcome to the free audiobook version of The Everyday Pain Guide, your go-to guide when pain first strikes. Hi, I'm Dr. Ya-Ling Liu, and the podcast is taking a little detour to make my new book available in an audio-friendly version for everyone out there. Each episode will feature a bite-sized snippet from the book, and together we'll work our way through as much of it as is possible in this format. What's exciting about this is that I'm reading parts of the book to you before it's even available on the shelves. Plus, unlike with a traditional audiobook, you can engage with the content and chat with me about what you hear. You get to ask questions and tell me what you think as each episode rolls out. So sit back and relax as I bring you today's installment of the second book in the Everyday Pain Guide series, Fix the Fire Damage. Today, we're finishing up the section on how to release your food sensitivities by tackling the last two, salicylates and FODMAPs. As you know, the information, techniques, and suggestions discussed here are not intended as a substitute for your own medical care. Always consult a healthcare provider before implementing any advice referenced here. Release your food sensitivities continued. Salicylates. A sensitivity to salicylates is not technically a true allergy. It is another non-IgE-mediated response. And so symptoms are not usually severe, but they can be. Salicylates are chemicals derived from acetyl salicylic acid, ASA, which is found in nature and can be extracted from plants like white willow bark. Synthetic salicylates are found in over-the-counter NSAIDs like aspirin, ibuprofen, and naproxen. Salicylate intolerance seems primarily to arise from exposure to the synthetic version, but once a sensitivity is established, it can be harder to tolerate food sources of salicylates also. Examples of foods that contain salicylates include, but aren't limited to, blueberries, avocados, mushrooms, cauliflower, coffee, and pine nuts. There will be a more complete list in the appendix of the book. Once again, you can see how insidious natural food sources of sneaky triggers like salicylates can be. It's not recommended to indefinitely avoid these foods. The malnutrition that could result would be much more adverse than the situation warrants. If you suspect you have a salicylate intolerance, avoiding the synthetic forms is a good idea. There's also no harm in experimenting with a short break from these foods to see how your body feels. But finding a way to return to eating them is very important. Proceed to the next action phase for retrain strategies so that you can do this as soon as possible. FODMAPs. This is an acronym that stands for the tongue twister fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. These all belong to a type of carbohydrate known as short-chain carbs. Their chemical structure is literally shorter, and therefore they're digested differently and require specific bacteria in order to be properly processed in the gut. For people with compromised gut flora who might be missing those specific bacteria, ingestion of FODMAPs can cause irritable bowel symptoms and therefore inflammation. What are some examples of these short-chain carbohydrate FODMAPs? Fructose, fruit sugar; lactose, dairy sugar; fructans, found in wheat, rye, spelt, and barley; galactans, found in legumes like beans, lentils, and split peas; and polyols, which are sugar alcohols like xylitol, sorbitol, and mannitol. Avoiding FODMAP foods is not a good long-term solution because FODMAP foods are prebiotics. They feed your healthy gut microbes, those probiotics. You've surely heard of probiotics. Those are bacteria that we need in the gut to maintain balance between good and bad microorganisms. Yogurt and fermented foods are good sources of probiotics. But if those probiotics don't have access to prebiotics from FODMAP foods and other high fiber sources, our intestinal bacteria have great difficulty maintaining a healthy balance. As with all of the release strategies in this first action phase, taking a break can give you good information about what your unique triggers are. Releasing triggers can be important for allowing your body to remember what it's like to be less inflamed on your path back to being pain-free. But especially in the case of FODMAPs, it should be a very temporary strategy only. You probably don't need to have it pointed out again how much overlap there is among all of these sneaky food sensitivities. You are far from alone if you just feel like throwing up your arms in frustration. What is there left to consume if all of these foods, in one way or another, can cause the body to feel inflammatory stress? First of all, this information is so that you know why there can be a good reason to take a break from certain food triggers while working on resolving your problems of persistent everyday pain. Secondly, taking a break to help your body reset is only temporary, not forever. Think of when you twist an ankle. You hobble a bit when you walk for a while, try to keep weight off of it, and you certainly don't intentionally twist it over and over again. But that's just temporary, while you give your body a chance to repair. The same thing applies here. Take a break from these very legitimate, albeit often confusing and sneaky, food triggers, but don't stop there. Proceed immediately to the retrain action phase where you'll learn how to support your body's repair process. That will be how you can help your body become less sensitive and more tolerant to all the sneaky 3 triggers. That completes another part of the first phase of the Body Chemistry Action Plan, Release, from Volume 2 of the Everyday Pain Guide series, Fix the Fire Damage. Have you ever been put on a FODMAP diet by your doctor? If so, how did it go? What was your short-term and longer-term experience? I'd love to hear more about that over on Substack. Come join me and other listeners over at Better Pain Coping, where you can chat about this or any other episode. You're also welcome to just lurk. You'll find a lot of extra content, including my own thoughts that didn't make it into the book, and all the research references that informed my writing for this chapter. Check the links in today's show notes to see how you can join the conversation over there. In the next episode, we'll move on and start looking at the second category of sneaky 3 garbage burdens: chemical sensitivities. See you then. This episode was an excerpt from The Everyday Pain Guide, your go-to guide when pain first strikes. Written and narrated by me, Dr. Ya-Ling Liu, with audio editing and production provided by Organized Sound Productions. Do you have questions or comments about today's episode? You can shoot me an email anytime at hello@stopeverydaypain.com. That's HELLO@stopeverydaypain.com. If you have friends or family members who you know are struggling with persistent, recurring aches and pains, tell them to check out the podcast while they're waiting for the book. To help me get this information to as many people who need it as possible, please consider leaving an honest review, but I'd also be super grateful for a simple like, follow, or share. Thank you for helping me put a stop to everyday pain.